Hey, this is Carl Franklin. I'm showing off the application that we're going to build together in my one-day Blazor workshop. The overall idea actually came out of necessity. I play in a band, and there's 10 members of the band, and when we book gigs, it's usually by email. What I mean by that is some venue will contact me and say, hey, we have an opening in November. Pick from one of these two dates. And I'll send an email to all of the band members and say, hey guys, pick one of these two dates. And then they'll either email back, I can't do that, or I can do this one, not that one. And now for me to figure out who can play, who can't play, I got to sort through all these emails and I got to figure all that out. There's no permanent record of it. It's all just a jumbled mess. And, it's doable, but it's really a lot of time that you have to spend sorting through emails. So I figured why not kill two birds with one stone and make the app that I'm going to show off something that I'll actually use. So that's what this is. It's a band booker. The basic idea is that you define some entities. You define instruments, guitar, keyboards, bass, piano, sax, whatever. And then you define some musicians, and then each musician has a list of instruments that they play. Then you define bands, which is a collection of musicians. And the band also has a name and all of that stuff. So then you define venues, and the venues are, the places that the band wants to play at. This pub and this bar and this whatever, places that we play, this nightclub, this arena. Hey, let's think big. And those venues have contact names and email addresses and the address and the phone number and all of that stuff and things that people can use to identify the venue, and a name, of course. And then you have bookings. And the booking, this is where it gets a little complex. A booking is in different states. So there's a Boolean booked true or false and a date booked that can be null. So before it's booked, basically, there's a list of instruments that are required for this gig. Not musicians, but instruments. So the whole idea is that I want to book this particular band, but I may have 5 people who have ever played with us that play tenor sax, and they're all really busy. So I want tenor sax to be an instrument, and I want to send out emails to all of them, and I want the first person who confirms to get the gig, right? So the booking has a venue, and it has a band, and then it has a list of instruments. And then I can, from this app, just email all of the people who have ever been associated with the band that fit those instruments and say, here, go to my app and log in and tell me if you can play or not. And so, yes, I can play. I pick an instrument that I'm going to be able to play, or no, I can't play because I have another gig that day, or it's my anniversary, or whatever, I'm out of town. They can give a reason. So then a manager can, whoever's managing these gigs, can go in and see who's responded and whether they have enough to book the gig. And then they can just press a book it button, and it'll send an email to the venue, and it'll send an email to everybody who's said yes, they can play that gig, and then it's booked. That's the whole idea. It just simplifies the process of booking a gig with a bunch of people who have different schedules, and maybe 2 or 3 people or 5 people fit a particular role, in this case, having an instrument that's necessary. So it's like a first come, first serve. Now, a venue can log in here and say, yes, we're a venue. We want to hire the Franklin Brothers Band on either this day or that day or this day, and they can put bookings in there too. And just with the band, just bookings and band, right? And so from that, we can, just start the whole process rolling. And if like a critical person like the drummer says, no, they can't do it, then we can just decline the gig to the venue. So that's what it is. And so this application uses Blazor, server-side Blazor. That's what we're looking at here. It has an administrator function, which lets you set up all the stuff. And then it has a musician page, so each individual musician can log in, and then they can say, yes, I can play that gig, or no, I cannot play that gig. So the technologies being used here are .NET Core 3.0, .NET Core 3 Entity Framework, server-side Blazor. We're using identity, right? So basically, when we create a new project, we're saying we want this to use HTTPS and we want to use authentication built into the application. So here's what happens. We're going to allow, let's say the first person who uses this is a musician. Let's say it's an admin. Let's do admin first. So that's going to be me. So I'm going to register as Carl@franklins.net, and I think I have a password that I've already created here. I'll just confirm it. Now all of this user data is being saved in a local database, but we could certainly put that into the cloud or whatever. It doesn't matter. Now, okay. So yes, I've been registered, but that doesn't mean I have access. So we're going to use an open source identity manager. So this identity manager can basically manage the users, and I'll refresh it here so that we can get our new user who just logged in, Carl@franklins.net, and we can grant them access based on roles. So I know that Carl@franklins.net just logged in. I know that they're going to be an administrator. So I'm going to create a manager role for them. Manager. Now I'll go back to my user and edit the user. Edit roles. And I'll add Carl@franklins.net to the manager role. So now Carl@franklins.net is a manager. If I go back here and I log out and I log in again, now I have the ability to add instruments, musicians, bands, venues, and bookings. So let's do that. Let's actually add some instruments here that I know play in the Franklin Brothers Band. Now, this particular editor thing right here, this is a component. This is a Blazor component. And there's really not a need for it to be a Blazor component because it's only being used right here in this particular place. But I kind of like having these things as components because I can reuse them if I ever need them down the road. So this is going to be guitar, the instrument. I'll add a few more instruments here. All right, so now I'm going to add a musician, a new musician, and this will be me, Carl Franklin. I'll put my email address in there. And you notice that I have this is also a component. Notice that I also have the ability to add instruments that I play. I can add or remove all of them. I can add or remove one of them at a time. Once I'm done with this, I can choose a photo. And by the way, I just have some goofy photos here. All of the tools that I'm using here are open source or in the box. So I actually have an open source tool that resizes this image. So if somebody uploads a huge image, it'll resize it down to the right size. All right, so now I have my musician, Carl Franklin. Cancel that. Let's add another musician. So this is going to be my brother Jay. Jay plays keyboards. Don't need a picture. All right, let's add a bass player. Kevin Carey. He plays bass. And drummer. Totally made up email addresses, except for mine. All right, so now we have 4 musicians that each play different instruments. Now we'll create a band. So this is the manager role, right? This is what the manager can do. So the band is Franklin Brothers Band. Franklin Brothers are a Steely Dan tribute band hailing from New London, Connecticut. Probably don't need to capitalize tribute there. Okay. Now let's just add all the musicians because these guys are all in the Franklin Brothers band. And there's more, but for the purpose of the demo, you can see what's going on. So now I got a band. Oh, and by the way, deleting. Check this out. If I try to delete a guitar, the instrument can't be deleted because one or more musicians plays it. So my code actually checks to see if there's a cascade issue. You could have a delete and nuke, right? Like this, delete all data. This is what I use for testing. A delete and nuke would delete all of the records associated with it, right? You could do that. But for example, I can't delete these bass players because, I can't delete these musicians because they belong to the Franklin Brothers band. All right, so now let's add a venue. So again, this is another component. So the venue is the social. And I'm going to leave everything else blank. That's all nullable. It's all cool. Now, let's say we have a booking. We have a potential booking. And we can select our band, select our venue. Of course, there's only one of each. Date and time. PM. Pay offering is what? $1,000 plus 10 at the door. No musicians have accepted or declined. Now, these are the instruments that are required. I want a guitar. I want a 4-piece. That's all they want. They want a 4-piece that night. They don't want any horns. It's all cool. I can invite the musicians with a button click. It'll send an email or text or, whatever. But I'm just going to add the gig right now. Now, let's say I get a message that, oh, you need to come to the musician page and log in as yourself, and you will see all of the bookings that you need to respond to. Now, what's interesting is that requires another role called musician. Okay, musician. So if I go back here, I can add myself to that role. Now I have to log out, log in again. Go to musician, and here I am. So now I have, I can edit my profile. See, look at this. This is why we use components. It's that same exact component, right? I can edit my profile just like that. So these are bookings that require my response. Here's another control, but this just shows me the data, right? So it's at the social, Saturday, November 30th, 8 p.m. It is not booked. Here's the pay offering. These are the required instruments. Nobody else has responded yet. I can respond yes, or I can respond no. Now let's say I have a conflict. I'll respond no. Here's yet another control. Give me a reason for declining. Dentist appointment. I don't know why I'd have a dentist appointment at 8 o'clock, but whatever. Okay? Now, no bookings require my response. Nothing's booked. But in all bookings, I see, here I am. Now it says, Carl Franklin can't play this gig, dentist appointment. All right. So let's log out and let's register as Jay Franklin. Jay's my brother. We'll give him the same password. to make the demo easier. Okay. Now Jay's logged in, but Jay isn't in any roles. So he contacts the administrator because, look, ask your administrator for access. That's what we're going to do. So we refresh. We see Jay Franklin is right there. We edit, and we add him as a musician. Now we come back here, we log Jay out, log Jay back in. Now he's not an administrator, but he is a musician. Now, why isn't he showing up? I don't know. Let's log in as me, the administrator, and let's go take a look. Here's Jay Franklin. Jay@jfranklin.com is his email address. Let's change it to what we logged in as, jay@franklins.net. And we'll update him. Now we'll log out, log back in as Jay. There he is. Emails have to match. So he requires a response, Franklin Brothers Band at the social, and he's going to respond yes. And now it selects an instrument he'll be playing. And yeah, he only plays one instrument, but what if it's a sax player that plays both tenor and alto? And we need both. We need a tenor and an alto player. And we have both in the band. So the first person to say, I am going to play whatever instrument on this gig, they get it. All right? So now if you look at the bookings, Carl Franklin can't play the gig because of dentist appointment. Jay Franklin on keyboards is confirmed. Let's log out, log back in as me. And I'll go to the musician thing. Now I've already responded, but let's go to this booking again. And let's say my dentist appointment, I was able to reschedule it. So I'm going to respond yes. Guitar. All right. Now if we go back to the booking, as a manager, I see that both Carl and Jay have accepted, and that's sufficient enough. So I can click book it. And that is going to send a message to all of the musicians and the venue, and everybody's going to be happy and it's going to be done. And then the next time I come in here, it's going to show up in this list, booked bookings. There it is, and we're going to build this app in one day, folks. So go to blazor.appvnext.com and sign up.